Greetings. Today, the moon continues in Aquarius, bringing lightning bolts, epiphanies, shifts in consciousness, a deeper clarity, hopefully, and understanding about who you are and your truth and what it means to be authentic and how to tap into freedom. So, we've got that theme for today. We also have Uranus stationing retrograde, and that station means that the planet Uranus is hovering on a point as it changes directions. The exact moment of the changing directions, which is not really a moment, but it takes place at 9:51 p.m. Pacific time. But really, all day, Friday and Saturday, really, we have this heightened Uranus energy as Uranus is in that stationary sort of hovering mode, changing directions. So I'm Marina Orms here with your Astro vibe for Friday, September 5th. So, Moon in Aquarius, and with this Uranus station in Gemini, 1 degree. So, we've got Pluto, 1 degree Aquarius. We've got Neptune, 1 degree Aries. We've got Uranus stationing at 1 degree Gemini. All of these signs for the outer planets are new beginnings. So, especially compared to where we've been for the past decade or two, in terms of the earth and water energies for the outer planets. So, these now all three outer planets currently in air and fire. Air and fire are just much faster in terms of the rate of how things move and how they can change. We've got Saturn in there just now having retrograded back into Pisces, and Neptune and Uranus both will retrograde back into, so in the case of Neptune, retrograding back into Pisces, in the case of Uranus, retrograding back into Taurus. So completing, once those both planets return to those to Pisces and Taurus, we've got work to finish up there in those signs, which is really the placement where those planets have been for many years. And so the current, right now, today, fire and air signs for these outer planets are that new vibe. So we're dipping our toes in the new energy. This is what it's going to look like, what it's going to feel like, and we're getting used to it, right? It's we are used to the mud, right? The earth energy, the water energy, like how that feeling of mud, and how you, when you're trying to make change, it's just like slogging through, and it just takes time. But change can happen much more rapidly with the outer planets being in air and fire. Again, that's temporary for now. They will both retrograde back into the water earth, and we'll have that for the next few months until in 2026. Both will go back into Uranus, back into Gemini, and Neptune back into Aries, where we've got that fire back into the warrior courage action energy. So, anyway, we have it now. We're getting a taste now. We're getting a feeling for how change happens when it is more rapid. And with the heightened energy of Uranus in Gemini, so Gemini is communication and thinking. It's technology, right? And communications. So think about the difference in how long it takes or took for communication to happen when you had to, well, first there was language, right? Theoretically, I mean, we weren't there, I guess, when language was being invented. But, maybe it felt like rapid communication compared to what it was like before that. Anyway, then you had writing, right? And letters, and maybe you had to carve them into stone, but you could now capture ideas, right? And then it became paper, right? And you could put it on paper and imagine how far that paper could go compared to the stone, and how much easier it was to make copies, even though you had to handwrite every single letter on the paper. It was faster than carving it in stone, right? and then and then you had, eventually, I'm probably skipping some steps here, right? But you get the idea. Like, eventually you had a printing press. And then you had telephones and radio and television, and there was a telegraph in there, right? The Morse code thing where they did the tapping and they could send the signal across the ocean, right? They had a transatlantic cable, which was actually in the process of being laid during Uranus in Gemini. Anyway, that's all interesting. I have a video somewhere about all of that, but the point is how different it feels when when technology changes, so that communication is that much more rapid, and the implications that has for society, for our ability to be connected. And, so we went from the Pony Express to to, having telephones, and now we have the internet. So where are we going next? That is the big question. And what does it look like for society when that communication becomes more rapid, more efficient, more, I mean, of course, we have themes of AI coming up right now and all the, ins and outs about that. So at any rate, we now, if nothing else, right? Even Google searches, like you used to be able to, like, maybe find one search term that would get you something that was sort of kind of what you wanted, but not exactly. Now you have AI where you can ask the exact question you want and clarify and engage with your, chat bot. And anyway, right? So we've got all of these changes happening. And the point is that Uranus stationing means those themes are up. The themes of technology, of communication, of how communication is changing, what it looks like, what its significance is, what it means for us, and thinking also about how we learn, and how we exchange information, where we get our information, the very nature of the whole idea of news is completely changing, right? From our grandparents or parents' generation, where you read the morning paper with your cup of coffee to know what was going on in the world. And if you were lucky, you got an article about something that happened yesterday. Anyway, now we have to check our phones every 5 minutes so we don't miss something, right? So just think about the implications of that. And so anyway, with the Uranus station, also those shifts in recognizing what it is we want to learn, how we want and need to communicate, where our consciousness is shifting, where we are creating space for new ideas, and how things can change very rapidly. It's also emphasized with today's Aquarius moon. So again, you want to think about self-care, bringing it back to self-care, and how you can give yourself that time and space to step away from what you normally have to worry about or make sure is happening, or, be in control of. Take that step back, because clearing your mind, getting some space, getting some headspace could be exactly what you need to create the right conditions for new ideas to pop in, shifts in consciousness that make you aware of new possibilities of what the future could look like in ways that have not occurred to you before. So, opening up to those lightning bolts of insight and how they are here to inform you, and how by being informed, you can then be the light in the world because you are working with that shift in consciousness, learning what it means, learning how to embody it, learning what it means for you, and grappling with what it means for your life and what changes are happening. And the more you do that, the more you become a role model for others, and the more we create the uh, shared visioning and shared possibilities of the future. Aquarius energy, Uranus energy is very much about the future. And so as we create a revolution, we have to know what it is we want. And that, right? We don't want to be the rebel without a cause. we don't want to just rebel because we don't like what's happening, but not know where we're headed and what is important to us and why, right? We have to connect with ideals that are going to help us stay on track and give us a direction to move in. And then we can do that together collectively with that Aquarius energy of groups and society. All right, that's probably more than you bargained for your self-care vibe for today. But I feel like these things are really relevant with this outer planet alignment that we are working with. And I talked about it yesterday. I've talked about it in several of my videos. So you can check out some of the longer ones that I have in the recommended playlist for more on these outer planet alignments. I have also an article on my member site that talks about the planetary alignments in 2025. So I'll put the link to that in the description for this video. Thanks for being here. I'm Marina Orms. You can book a reading with me at astrologyheals.com, and transformationalastrology.com is my member site. So that's where you can find about planetary alignments, shifts in outer planets, changing signs, and so much more. So it's transformationalastrology.com. All right. Thanks for subscribing, and I will see you next time with more astrology for unshakable self-care. Bye for now.